They disliked Bilbo and detested Frodo, but so magnificent was the invitation card, written in golden ink, that they had felt it was impossible to refuse. Besides, their cousin, Bilbo, had been specializing in food for many years, and his table had a high reputation. All the 144 guests expected a pleasant feast, though they rather dreaded the after-dinner speech of their host, an inevitable item. He was liable to drag in bits of what he called poetry, and sometimes after a glass or two would allude to the absurd adventures of his mysterious journey. The guests were not disappointed. They had a very pleasant feast, in fact, an engrossing entertainment, rich, abundant, varied, and prolonged. The purchase of provisions fell almost to nothing throughout the district in the ensuing weeks. But as Bilbo's catering had depleted the stocks of most of the stores, cellars and warehouses for miles around, that did not matter much. After the feast, more or less, came the speech. Most of the company were, however, now in a tolerant mood, at that delightful stage which they called filling up the corners. They were sipping their favorite drinks and nibbling at their favorite dainties, and their fears were forgotten. They were prepared to listen to anything and to cheer at every full stop.
"My dear people," began Bilbo, rising in his place.
"Here, here, here," they shouted and kept on repeating it in chorus, seeming reluctant to follow their own advice. Bilbo left his place and went and stood on a chair under the illuminated tree. The light of the lanterns fell on his beaming face. The golden buttons shone on his embroidered silk waistcoat. They could all see him, standing, waving one hand in the air. The other was in his trouser pocket.
"My dear Bagginses and Boffins," he began again, "and my dear Tooks and Brandybucks and Grubbs and Chubbs and Burrowses and Hornblowers and Bolgers, Bracer Girdles, Good Buddies, Rockhouses, and Proudfoots."
"Proud feet!"
shouted an elderly hobbit from the back of the pavilion. His name, of course, was Proudfoot, and well-merited. His feet were large, exceptionally furry, and both were on the table.
"Proudfoots," repeated Bilbo. "Also my good Sackville Bagginses that I. Welcome back at last to Bag End. Today is my 111th birthday. I am 1 today."
"Hooray! Hooray!"
Many happy returns.
They shouted and they hammered joyously on the tables. Bilbo was doing splendidly. This was the sort of stuff they liked, short and obvious.